Good evening, fellow heretics. Welcome to tonight's show. I am your host, Captain Dadpool.
And I'm Natty Nat.
And you're watching Nerds and Heresy.
Hold on to your butts.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Our guest this evening is Milo, a.k.a. Masiakasurus.
Masiakasurus.
I should have known. Joannosaurus might be joining us, or should be joining us a little bit later. So right now, we've got Milo. How you doing, Milo?
Everyone. Yeah, my name is Milo. I'm on TikTok as Masiakasurus. I make content mostly about paleontology, as Joannosaurus does. Also do pretty much kind of whatever about biology in the natural world currently. And occasionally you'll get a little bit of philosophy from me. I'm an undergrad student studying philosophy with a little bit of earth science and all that stuff sprinkled in there. But I'm a huge nerd and looking forward to discussing whatever it is we end up talking about today. So should be a good time.
All right. It's a unique combination of philosophy and earth science.
Sure.
I actually don't think it's that. I mean, it is unique, but I don't think it's actually unheard of. Doing philosophy in any stance is extremely helpful when it comes to doing any sort of science, because you need to be able to understand the full mode of thinking behind any subject and be able to take yourself out of it. With philosophy, you can do that. It is hard work, but once you get into the mindset, that practice is really helpful. So
I agree.
Yeah.
And I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder if probably my history of being really interested in science and the natural world for as long as I can remember probably helped lead me to philosophy, actually, because I've always been interested in paleontology, the natural world, big questions like about how the universe works. And I'm from Utah, and I was raised in the Mormon church, and always having.
Really?
Yes.
Did not know that about you.
Would you consider yourself still Mormon, just for curiosity? No. Oh,
no.
Yeah.
Hard no.
Interesting.
Hard no.
Yeah, I was raised actually with a religious parent and a very much not religious parent. And so it was really interesting to have both those sides growing up. And so I was always like, I went to church most weeks, and, I believed most of it for most of the time, but I was always questioning, and I was like, maybe never 100% in and that sort of thing. And so as I started to, be more interested in like science and like thinking that way, there were things about the religious aspects that I'd been taught that, I became more and more skeptical of. And then if that leads eventually, I would call myself an atheist now. And the philosophy of religion is one of my main things that I'm interested in. So there you go.
Yeah, it's like when I was growing up religious, like I was always a science nerd too.
Right.
It's like I was telling you backstage, I was never a young Earth creationist. I always took the creation narrative in Genesis as allegorical, not literal. Like, so I had no problem like reconciling what I was learning from science with my religion. Like, okay, to me it was like I was learning a more pure version of my religion, I guess, by reconciling it with science. And actually, Anthony Flew kind of says the same thing. But yeah, eventually it came down to more historical stuff that I couldn't jive with.
Interesting.
I was just that little kid that kept asking why, and if I got a shitty answer, I would keep asking until I got a good answer. Oh, thank you. Don't know why. I just took a shower. There's like nothing on my face.
It's funny you say that, because I was also a person always asking questions, and I think the questions that finally like pushed me all the way out were moral questions, really, about like the church's stance, like a history of racism and current very much really homophobic and anti-LGBTQ. And it was questions about like, how does that make sense if you claim to be run by an all-loving God and things like that, where I felt like eventually there were no good answers. And like the answer that made the most sense was, you're not being run by an all-loving God.
There's the Stephen Fry quote that I absolutely love, which is either God is all-loving or all powerful. And
Yeah.
all powerful God is not all loving in any sense. And then he just goes on and lists all these really shitty things about the world. He's like, if you were all powerful, this wouldn't be a thing. If you were all loving, this wouldn't be a thing. Like,
Yep.
explain that. So
Yeah,
that
there's a
was-
reason
that
the
was one
problem
that
of evil
resonated.
never goes away.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
Oh, so I was just saying, there's a reason the problem of evil never goes away.
Right.
Yep. The Odyssey.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of that's one thing I'd always kept me in my religion, I guess, was teachings like from the Bible, like Jesus saying, the road to damnation is wide, and the road to heaven is narrow. Not all who say to me, Lord, Lord, will enter into my heaven. So, in other words, the vast majority of people, even people who prophesied, Jesus said, "You're not real Christians," or Paul said, "You weren't real Christians." Anyway, so in the Bible, it's like it's teaching that there's a lot of people who are going to call themselves Christian, but very few of them actually are. So for me, it's like when I look at like the history of the Catholic Church, like that didn't really shake me. It's like, oh, maybe those are the ones that are not real Christians. I don't know. I'm rambling. Sorry.
It's okay. No, that's fine. Riley, yeah, I got in trouble all the time for it. All the time. All the time.
Oh,
Just asking why. I got in
Yeah.
trouble in my church. I got in trouble at my school. I got in trouble for questioning why I had to turn my shirt inside out because I had the Darwin theory of evolution, just the origin of the species diorama. No, what was it called? The sketch of like ape to man.
Yeah.
I had that on my shirt, and apparently that was offensive to those with Christian shirts. Although everybody had like FCA or like Fellowship of Christian Athletes on, and everybody had like God verse like religious quotes on the back of their shirt, but I can't claim that that was offensive to me because I didn't believe in anything. Therefore, I had no religion, i.e.,
Right.
it can't be offensive to me. So, yeah. Anyway, sorry, Riley got me off on something.
Oh, good. It's fun. To be fair, I also am not a fan of that like linear progression apes to humans
No,
diagram.
I'm not either. But like,
everywhere.
as a teenager, loved it.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
But yeah, it is.
Um,
It is a horribly out of date expression, but I mean, it does kind of explain the idea of missing links, and that does work. But as far as the progression goes, yeah, no, Christians don't know how to take that. They're just all sorts of like confused.
It's interesting. We had a comment saying somebody has an issue with the church teaching that animals don't have souls. That's an interesting one for me because within the problem of evil, I think perhaps the problem of animal suffering is the most convincing version of it,
Right.
Which is so interesting, right? Because Ricky already mentioned the theodicy is the word for all the different ways to try to get around the problem of reconciling bad stuff in the world with an all-powerful and all-loving God. And all of them don't work when you try to apply them to animals. At least I've never heard anyone that does. But they're all about like humans bettering their their moral value to get into heaven, or about making greater goods, or about having free will. And why should any of that matter to an animal that's not going to end up in heaven? So
Yeah, that's not
That's a
logical.
side tangent,
Animals
but-
can't have preferences.
yeah.
I brought this up in a debate I was having with a Christian, and his response was, like natural disasters. I think I was talking about specifically, and he was like, maybe they build character. Like, really? God allows.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh my god, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, like God allows mass floods and
Yeah, it builds character.
everything. It builds character. Okay. I wish I'd thought to be like, what about the animals? Does it build character for them too?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's funny. Frank Turek actually came to the University of Utah last year and gave a talk.
Oh, no.
And yeah, that was a good time. And I got a free book out of it because I told him I was an atheist, and so I got one of his books, and I'm gonna have to read.
God,
Is it
that's
I don't have enough
awesome.
faith to be an atheist?
No, it's what's the other one called? It's
I've read that
basically
Read this and come back to me.
yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look it up for later. But basically you could get in line and ask him a question afterward, and I asked him about the problem of animal suffering, and I'm trying to remember what his answer was, but it was so bad that like the apologetics group that was hosting, after I went back and sat down, one of the people who's a Christian apologist.
Was this like live, like on a mic?
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Oh,
yeah.
Now I
No,
really want to know.
but anyway, so one of these like people that has been hosting this event to have Turek there, like actually came up to me in my seat and was like, "Can I talk to you about the problem of animal suffering out?" And he like went into the back and he was like, "I didn't think that was a good answer either, but here's what I would say." It was like, so I'm trying to remember what Frank Turek said now. I can't remember.
Probably something along the lines of, "It doesn't matter because they're animals."
I mean, that's what it all boiled down to, right? Like,
it doesn't matter because they're not human. We were made in God's image; they were not. So why would that be an issue?
Or you have to deny that they feel pain, basically, which I've heard William Lane Craig do, basically. And that's kind of how I skimmed a chapter in C.S. Lewis's book, The Problem of Pain, and that's basically where he lands too. It's so depressing. Anyway.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I like to bring up the 5 mass extinction events and 20 something smaller extinction events, and point out how 98% of the species that's ever lived on this planet is now extinct. Like, why is that a part of God's divine plan? Why was that necessary to wipe out entire,
Yep. And it's like, and this is where it's not impossible to reconcile an old Earth and an enormously empty universe and the theory of evolution with Christianity, but it starts to get difficult because it's so unnecessary to have all of this. I remember Sean Carroll, who's a cosmologist, theoretical physicist. He did a talk once, it's on YouTube somewhere, where he talks about likelihoods, which are basically what is the probability that this evidence would be true if the theory was the case. And he compares, if on a universe where an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving God created the universe, what would we expect? Try to step away from the universe we see. What are the things we would expect? Versus a universe created totally by natural processes, what would we expect? And we'd expect basically what we see now on only one of those hypotheses. And it's really hard to explain why the universe is so big and so empty if God created all of it just for us. And there's things like that make you think a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, they have such a hard time like zooming out on focusing on themselves and trying to look at the bigger picture, like to them, because that's what Christianity does, is it makes it all about them. You are loved by the creator of the universe. You are going to spend eternity with him in paradise. Like it's all about you. Like, but they don't want to look out and be like, hey, what about these other, people, planets, all this empty space? I saw a preacher, I think it was on Twitter, was like, knowing Jesus is the only way to heaven. Sorry. I was like, what about the people who live on islands who've never heard of your religion before? Like, just fuck those people, I guess.
Exempt. They're exempt because once they get to heaven, they'll learn.
Yeah, there's a couple of flimsy ways to explain it away.
I don't know about you guys. As soon as Riley mentioned just now that holy water was gross, she was just thinking like a petri dish. I literally, like, because right now my job involves me taking water samples. I honestly want to go to a Catholic church on a Sunday morning with a sterile bottle.
Oh man, that would be amazing.
Test it. I'm going to test it. I just asked one of my supervisors if I could. He said yes. We're doing it.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, can I test holy water? And he was like, sure. I was like, great. I want multiple samples though, from different churches.
Right.
We went to Luray Caverns recently.
Oh yeah.
They have underwater bodies. I don't know what you call them. Little pools, whatever you call them.
Streams, ponds, lakes.
I'd love to like take a sample and they give it to you, so you can.
It will be really calcitic.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Calcitic. You're going to have lots of calcite, and you're probably going to have a little bit of argon, and you're probably going to have a lot of phosphorus. You will probably have some E. coli, but for the most, it all depends on if it's super touristy or not. And if it has a direct line of rainfall, or if it's like filtered completely, because if it's filtered completely, you shouldn't have any E. coli in that water. But then, you know, people exist and they touch things, and then they touch water, and then, you know, bacteria spreads.
That's what I want to know.
But
how many people broke the rules and fucked with the water?
Yeah, people do that all the time. All the time.
Oh, I just remembered the name of Turek's book. That's
Do
so, it's funny how memory works. It's
it's
called Stealing from God: Why Atheists Need God to Make Their Case.
Oh God.
Oh shit. Can you? Oh my God.
It just came to me.
Yes.
I've been considering, I haven't gotten around to it yet, but if like maybe over the summer where I have some more time, doing like a YouTube series where I read a chapter of that book and then just like go through it on a YouTube video, just talk about it.
Would you like to join us sometime? Because there's at some point I am going to be taking a bunch of the Ark. What was it called? The Ark Encounter. The Ark Encounter gave me a bunch of pamphlets.
Okay.
That I haven't yet done. I haven't gone through and read them on Nerds. I keep saying I'm going to do this at some point, and I need to. Forrest wants to jump in on this the day that we do it. It would be. Do you know Forrest, Renegade Science teacher?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we're mutuals. He's great.
Okay, so cool. Then that's awesome. Are you on the Discord with him? By the way,
I am.
Yeah, that's how.
Where I've seen you.
That's how.
I was like, God, I know I've interacted with you at least once, and that's where. Okay,
that's where we got introduced.
Indeed.
That's it.
And one day I was like, "Hey, does somebody want to collab with me on my YouTube channel?" And I got like 9 people. Like, "Oh,
yeah." I was
that's
like,
one way to
"I'll
do
throw my
it.
name in the hat. Why not?"
That's where Joannosaurus came from.
Well, you know what? Now we have all the Saurus. We need to get the last one in as well. So Katiosaurus needs to come in next week. We can get her. Depends on if she's busy. She's normally down for stuff, but we'll see.
Nice.
Malachi stands, all of us. Not wrong. But yeah, God, atheists need God in order to. No, I don't like that.
Yeah,
I don't like that.
It's supposed to be like a more philosophically oriented book where he's like showing that all the like arguments that atheists make like have this background assumption that requires God. I don't know. That's the idea anyway.
Well, I'm guessing one of his big arguments is air, so that's fun.
Is it
wind?
air?
Yeah, wind. You can't see it, but you can feel it. It's there.
Oh, we'll see. We'll hope it's a little bit more interesting than that.
That is one of his arguments, though.
Oh,
that's like legitimately one of the ones that you can't see air particles, but you can feel it. They move. They exist because God wills it to be.
Whoop-de-doo.
Hey, speaking of Joannosaurus.
Hello, Kitty.
Yes, I decided to be on the
shirt.
I know.
I love it.
I got it. I know. I've actually gotten so many compliments on it, and I just got it off Amazon. I was like, you know what? I've been living far too long without indulging myself.
Shirt off Amazon.
Exactly. It's honestly so comfy too. It's like very like it's a thin.
Yeah, I'm getting it.
My kitty has decided to play with like the dangling
dangling
earbud. Yeah.
Like
anyway,
I just
so yeah.
attacked my toe a little while ago.
Oh my goodness. Honestly,
Joanna, do you know Milo, perchance?
So I think, well, I know of his TikToks, but this is our first formal meeting. So hello.
Good to actually meet you. Yeah.
Yes, nice to meet you too. And all my animals, which are like coming. There's other ones over there. Actually, they might make an appearance.
All of the animals. Yay.
Yes.
They're welcome too.
Okay.
Yes.
Your cat would probably not like me right now. It's okay. I'm wearing some cat incisors.
Oh dear.
I got them from the vet's office because there was a few cats that were like, sick and had to get their teeth removed. And then they just throw away the teeth, so I keep them.
You know what? That is not the strangest pendant I have seen. There was a lady at SVP that had 2 raccoon baculum earrings, which were
oh my God, don't get me started with this. I have a porcupine.
Oh, you got a porcupine?
I have a porcupine head pin, like I guess a hairpin. Yeah, it's just a porcupine quill, but on the end of it is a possum penis. So
very good, very good indeed.
I'm very proud of it. I love it so much, and it's
Oh, Gwen, no, sweetie, no, you don't eat those. I'm
Don't eat the things, Kitty.
No, I better put. Okay, I'm going to put it in here. I moved from last time I was in a different place when I talked with you guys last time, and it was waking up. I found out afterwards. My husband had been watching the monitor, and it was waking up my kids because of where it was in the house. The sound was traveling upstairs, so I've moved somewhere else. But it means that I have all these animals.
Nice.
It's okay. They'll just steal the show. It's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, what I miss.
We were just kind of talking about philosophy of religion and Frank Turek a little bit, and then that's like all we've hit so far.
Yeah, that's where we.
Like we're talking a little bit. We haven't really gotten into the dinosaurs yet. We haven't gotten into like, rocks and minerals and that. Oh, I talked a little bit about what you'd find in a water quality sample from an underground lake in a cavern, like what you would expect if it was touched versus not touched. But that's about it. It was very brief.
All right. Well, I'm all up to speed now, and my cat is just like in the shot.
That's okay. It's fine.
My goodness.
Wait, you're the one that named one of your cats.
Yes, this is Rigel.
Yes.
And and his personality matches the Rigel from Farscape. And this is Gwen, named after the panther, the astral panther. And Kaylee is over there, but she's asleep. Maybe she'll. Yeah, Kaylee from Firefly. Yeah, she's over there.
And that's Rex.
This is Rex.
He's so cute.
He's a massive pain in the ass.
I don't think I can get Xena to come in here. She doesn't really like my office very much. It's a little too echoey for her. But she had a bath yesterday, so I'll just show a picture.
You're so cute.
Less than content about the fact that she got all wet yesterday.
Dang.
Your cat coming on your shoulder like that really reminds me that mine when she my oldest Gwen is an old cat. She's like 13, so she doesn't do it anymore. But when she was a kitten, she used to do that all the time, and she would just like jump onto my shoulder, and I would just walk around my apartment with her on my shoulder. And one time I answered the door for like the pizza delivery man with the cat on my shoulder, and he was like, "Whoa."
We'll just get Gregory up here, and we'll be fine.
Nice.
Oh yes.
Is that 3D printed trilobite? That's so cool.
Right?
It is very cool.
That's
yeah.
Sick. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
God, I love it.
A little large, but it's okay. His name's Gregory.
Nice. Oh, speaking of trilobites, I went to a rock and mineral show today, and I got no, that's not the right thing. And I got a little like one of the like Facops, like the little hold on.
Oh, one of the balls. Oh,
yeah, the little like rolled up ones.
They're like this. When they're all like this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was so cute. I brought them because I wasn't sure if like we would end up talking about stuff, and I was like, oh, probably. I can bring the things that I found.
I will always bring trilobites up. They are my favorite bug. They are not real bug, but they are my favorite bug.
Yeah, I'm very proud that one of my kiddos decided to bring home a fossil as well. She looked at it and said it spoke to her, and I was like, okay. And then she told me afterwards that it spoke to her even before we went. It had been talking to her from home. Like, okay.
Oh, that is some connections.
I know. It's probably on display now in her room. So anyway, so yeah.
I still can't bring out any of my cool things because they're all in Missouri still in my storage container. I still have a jar of dirt though.
Well, dirt is cool. So I want to so Milo, how are things going with you? What are you up to these days?
I'm up to college these days. Yeah.
Oh yes.
That is sort of the thing at the moment. Yeah.
What classes are you taking this semester?
Oh, sure. So this semester I'm taking a class. The philosophy class I'm taking is all about just David Hume. Which has been pretty interesting so far. The strange thing with that class is that the professor has instigated a rule where during whatever we're writing papers or talking in discussions, we cannot address politics, sex, or religion at all.
Oh,
which, especially if you're talking about David Hume.
That's really fucking hard.
Yeah.
Language.
Stuff to say about philosophy of religion, and we're conveniently skipping over all of that, which is a little annoying. But anyway.
You need to, but that's day-to-day understanding of his work. Like,
Yeah.
ooh, I would complain when they give you the thing at the end of the semester. Fucking write a complaint. Like, that needs to be on there. Like, we need to discuss the day-to-day understanding of it, not just like the religious bubble version. But go on. Sorry, go ahead. What other classes?
All right. Well, so there's that one. I'm taking ornithology, literally just for fun. It doesn't actually do me any good.
I did that too. I took ornithology. It was the funnest class. I loved it so
great.
much.
This is what we read in ornithology.
Finch, nice.
Speaking of Finch.
Sick.
What kind of? What
Got a
kind
question
of?
for you, Milo.
Oh, okay.
Favorite thought? Whoa.
Oh.
Favorite thought experiment.
Mine is Theseus' ship. Or Theseus.
That's a good one. That's a good
I
one.
like Abraham's axe, or is it
Oh.
George Washington's axe? The axe, the cherry tree axe.
I think
It's
it's
like
George
you're
Washington's.
breaking the parts. Are they still the same thing?
Yeah.
Which I think correlates with Theseus's ship as well. If you keep
Kinda.
replacing pieces of the ship, it's
I guess just
Say the trolley problem.
yeah, it's a classic. I might go like The Veil of Ignorance from John Rawls. Has that some interesting implications?
Which one's that?
So this is the idea of is sort of is to get at an ethical conclusion, and the veil of ignorance is to say, what if we were designing a society where we know we're going to be a part of the society, but we don't know who we're going to be within it? So it's take a step back behind the veil of ignorance. How would we design society?
It's Lincoln's axe.
And of course, like the idea is that the obvious conclusions are you want to make it as equal as possible, because if you set it up the way we are now, where just odds are if you were to come into the society, you're going to land in a place of poverty, or you're not going to be in a place where you're probably most happy, and you want to give yourself the best odds of having a good life. That the idea is we should take that stance and thus set up society in a pretty equally distributed way. The reason I think it's interesting is I think you can take it one step further, and I'm trying to remember who is this is not an original idea to me. I don't remember who did this. I remember seeing it on YouTube somewhere. What if we step behind the veil of ignorance and design society knowing that we could come into it as anything, as objects, as animals, as people? It could be literally anything. Then how would we design society? And the idea is, I think that you'll end up at an important ethical conclusion here, which is, well, maybe I'll hold off on that. Should we care about bricks and chairs? If we're behind the veil of ignorance, do we set up a society that is really kind to bricks? It seems like the answer is no, because even if you come into the world as a brick, it doesn't matter to you, because if you're a brick, you don't feel anything.
But the brick is useful.
Right. But there's nothing that it is like to be a brick. There's no experience. You don't get to experience the world as a brick. But if you come into the world as a human, then of course, like, you can have positive and negative experiences. So we ought to.
No, you can have some pretty negative experiences as a brick.
As a brick.
Well, you can be built up.
But would you actually perceive them if you were a brick? Is the question.
If you were, well, you don't know.
That's it.
There's some bacterium that probably live in the brick.
Nat, stop playing devil's advocate. God damn.
Oh, come on.
Do back to, okay, that is.
I'm good at that. Let me be good at it.
Right. But even if you come into the world as a bacterium.
Oh,
bacterium
do you see Charles's comment? Throw Charles's comment up here.
Yeah, I was just about to.
God damn.
Sorry, I just had to spot on.
Anyway. Yeah, well done. Anyway, but the idea is, the conclusion here is, we should only design a society that is fair and equal to those things that have experiences, things that are conscious and that can have positive, that can experience pleasure, that can experience pain. And that will get you to a world where one of the conclusions is we need to get rid of factory farming entirely, because you have a really good chance of coming into the world as a chicken and it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
So anyway, you have interesting, I think that's a fun thought experiment. It can be applied and you can zoom out bigger and see different ethical conclusions.
If you really get into it, life itself shouldn't exist, because no matter what, life causes suffering and pain. And I mean that in the sense of, I exist. A virus I might ingest a virus. The virus then is killed off by things in my body that I cannot control. They are trying to kill it. Is that not painful for the virus? I don't know. Do we consider virus a living thing? It depends on which thought process you're from. But but that concept, the idea that I am inherently harming something that could be another living thing, means that life itself shouldn't exist, because that's not a good society, right? That's not a proper. I don't know. Just think.
I'll maybe push back on that just a little bit.
Go for it.
Like, I am actually one of the people that will take virus. I'm happy to grant viruses are alive, but that's maybe a conversation for another topic. But
I'm content with it. But there are some distinctions that I have to work with. But go on. Yes.
But for me, I don't think that life is the important quality. I don't actually value life just for life's sake, which is maybe a.
No, that's not controversial. I am the same way.
It seems controversial on its face. Yeah.
I don't think life.
Let him finish, Nat.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. It seems like we agree. But like, you can maybe use the veil of ignorance to get at this. Like, if you come into the world as a virus, it doesn't matter to you because we have pretty good reason to think that viruses aren't conscious. And the same for like, if you come into the world as a blade of grass, it doesn't matter. Like, we don't have an ethical, like, we're not ethically opposed to mowing the grass because we think we're like chopping their heads off and they're screaming in pain every time.
The smell is literally them crying in pain.
Literally?
It is a chemical reaction to harming the plant. Yes.
Sure. Wow. Okay, interesting. But then we have to define what we mean by harm. Like,
it is getting cut off.
Yes, but is that a negative experience of harm for the grass?
Oh man, fuck this.
Are we arguing about the consciousness of grass?
No,
this is what's happening right now.
Because this is like a grass kink.
Okay, but wait. So the thing, so I guess the problem becomes when does something become conscious enough that it falls into the we should, and that line is very difficult to draw. Like, especially because we can't perceive.
It's not a line. It's a foggy area.
Exactly, because we can't perceive the world the way an animal does, right? We don't always, like they don't have the same, brains that we do. Like they have brains obviously, but like the complexities of their brains are different,
are not
shaped different. Yeah, we're not dogs, exactly. But so it's very hard to know that, and I don't have enough. I don't have enough background in that to know. But obviously, like, there's some things that we would all agree on, but then there gets to be like, fish. Yeah. And you're like, yes, like, I think I can see a fish reacting to pain and stuff like that. But like, how conscious is a fish? Is it just kind of
only
I don't know.
15 seconds though? Like if its memory only lasts 15 seconds, does that 1 second of pain really matter in its life?
Mm-hmm. But then can you teach fish to do stuff? You can. Okay, so then we're going lower down, but you can teach worms to do stuff. Like you can teach them to like react to light and stuff like that. Can't you?
Are we teaching them to react to light, or are they simply reacting to light because of negative stimuli that we present to them?
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, yeah.
They are learning. But
oh my gosh.
Is it a learning process of them knowing that they're learning something, or is it through instinct and through experience that they are no longer behaving the same way?
Exactly. But are they but that like when that instinct kicks in, is that not a negative feeling for them? Right. Like they have to feel something in order to trigger that instinct. Right. So that with that negative, so that's what I'm saying. Where does that come? Like if you were that worm and terrible things were happening to you, you might not know that they were happening to you, but you still have to perceive them in some regard because you're reactive to them. I don't know.
One of the things that's like a baseline for life itself is a reaction to certain stimuli. So like without that reaction, would you really be alive?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is really heavy.
Welcome to philosophy.
I took two.
I love it. No, I will get into one of my favorite classes in college was the philosophy of science, in which I was constantly combating my own ideas because did it make sense? Like this is literally within the philosophy of science. This isn't just religion. They overlap so much.
Yeah.
So much. Like everything. Okay, Gregory, fine. You don't want to stay up there? That's fine. You can go back in your little crate.
Yeah. I took philosophy in my first year of university and I really liked it, and I almost switched into it, and then I didn't. I chose paleontology instead. Okay. But it's been so long now. I don't remember. Like I remember being really interested in in class, really engaging with the professors and the other students in discussions and finding it fascinating, different perspectives and different, ways of coming about problems and different ways of thinking about it. It was like super fascinating to me, but I can't remember any of the specifics, and it like bugs me. But getting back to this problem, Milo, do you have a line like where you would draw it, or is that like you have never thought about that? And please don't ask me.
No, it's definitely something I think about all the time, right? Because like for me, that is the important question.
Right.
For me, it's like also I have to acknowledge that there isn't a line. So anywhere we draw it is going to be arbitrary.
Yeah.
But for most of the time, that's not something that I have to worry about. Like it's not like a day-to-day basis thing where it's like me being a morally good person like relies on me drawing this line in the right place, because it's like I'm not interacting with jellyfish every day and being like, how well should I treat this jellyfish?
I want to poke it. It goes bloop.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
the
most human thing. It looks like it's gonna go bloop. I'm gonna make it do it.
I mean, I generally tend to anything that moves, I try to treat it with kindness. You know what I mean? Like,
how many bugs do you crush a day when you just walk on the pavement? How many? Like, because you're not looking down the whole time.
Yes, but like our house is like no, especially spiders, and no squish zone.
Do you have any like termite spray that you spray on your house? Do you like prevent? You don't do any of it. Oh, okay.
No, I mean, okay, listen. Okay, I do
any sort of spray to inhibit the entrance or exit of any little creatures.
Okay. I squish earwigs every time, because one time my brother got it on its finger. So those little pincers at the end of an earwig, do you guys know earwigs? Do you have them where you are? Okay, the little pincers on the end, you think they do nothing. No, they actually pinch. My brother got one on his finger. His finger started turning purple. My mom was like squishing it and it wouldn't die. And it was like, and he was screaming, and it was a little bit of trauma. So earwigs are like, they're unfortunately.
I feel that way with house centipedes because I had one sting me.
Oh dear.
House centipedes are creepy and they're fast.
Here's a fun fact about house spiders that I learned a few years ago from an entomologist at the Natural History Museum of Utah, which y'all should come check out whenever you're in Utah, because it's amazing.
Oh yeah, it sounds awesome.
Anyway, but yeah, he was telling me that house spiders that you find in your house are very much particularly adapted to live in your house. So for people that take them outside, it's as good as flushing them down the toilet. Which kind of sucks.
We in my family, nobody likes spiders. I'm always the one that moves them, and anytime it was a house spider, I just move it down to the cellar.
Yeah.
I would never take it outside. And everybody was just always mad at me for it. They're like, where do you take it? Downstairs?
No, spiders are your friends, man. They're eating the stuff you don't want.
I was gonna say, one of my kiddos found a spider that had passed on once, and she was so upset that she cried and made me make a little, like, I had to wrap it up and like put it to rest. And it was very sweet. And I was like, okay, we're doing something right now, because
okay. I want to jump back just for a split second though, because I want to see. Milo was going to say, and then he didn't.
Yes.
The answer, quote unquote, the result of the veil. The veil. So where would you like someone to reach in that argument?
Basically, I think the conclusion of that extra step of the veil is to reach the conclusion that what is the quality that matters ethically is sentience, which is like your ability to have positive and negative experiences. That seems to me to be the case. And like, to answer your question about where you draw the line, I don't know. Like, there's not a line, of course. In general, like, the things that I'm looking for are any combination of brain, central nervous system, pain receptors, things like that. Hint at being able to actually have experiences. And so that's why I think we all like have this intuition that it's not morally wrong to chop your grass. But if you were to do the same thing to a cat, we have a problem now. So, yeah.
That's why you don't burn the butterfly's wings while they fly away.
Is that a thing people do?
That is a thing that is probably indicative of a serial killer.
God damn.
Okay. Where did that come from?
That's a psychology thing. Sorry. I just figured I'd throw that
That's
in
a random ass example.
Seriously.
Yikes.
If you
Okay.
like the wings of butterflies and then let them try and fly away, their wings just start to. It's really fucked up, and apparently it is something that serial killers do as children.
Oh, well, I'll watch for that.
Huh.
Moving on.
Keep an eye, sharp eye for that.
Sharp eye out. Those butterflies burning.
Yeah. Oh my. Oh,
Well, Ricky, I'm interested why you say the Ship of Theseus is your favorite. Is there a particular version of that, or what like conclusions do you draw from the Ship of Theseus?
I mean, I haven't thought about it long enough to try and crack the code, right?
Right,
So,
sure.
Theseus ship, for anyone who's watching and doesn't know, is you have a Theseus ship, and over time, you start replacing one board at a time, and eventually there are no original boards from the original ship. It's by all intents and purposes a brand new ship, but it's still called Theseus' ship. Now, what if you take all the old wood and remake a new ship? Is that one now Theseus' ship, or is it the other one that's been called Theseus' ship for however long? And there's another version, like if you have a band, and you start replacing each member of the band, but they still tour, they still go by the same name, they still sell records under the same name. Is it still, let's just say, I don't know, Vesuvius?
Abraham Lincoln's axe is the same.
It's still Abraham Lincoln's axe. Now, if you take all the old band members and they go on a reunion tour, are they Abraham Lincoln's axe now, or do they have to go by a new name, or does the old So that's basically what it is. I didn't explain that very well. I'm
no,
falling
I understood it.
Time processing my thoughts.
No, it is, and it. There's multiple questions that you draw from it. Is one, is it still the ship? Two,
the point is, like, where do we see? What value do we put in?
There it is. The value of it.
Is, say, if it's a ship, if like the crew has been the same, has been working on the ship, and they're the ones that keep calling it Theseus' ship, then the value lies in their memories, of the ship. So like rebuilding the new ship wouldn't do much for them, or maybe it would. I don't know. Yeah, it's just a thought.
Depends if they wrote anything on the boards, I guess. If all the boards were scratched with like so and so was here that they left, then maybe they would care a little bit that the when you put together
getting into archaeology of it. Hold on, anthropologic philosophy.
No, I was just that was just an off the cuff thing. No. That is a very difficult problem to be sure.
It's tricky, and there's multiple answers to multiple questions involved within it. It's not a one shot philosophy. There's a bunch of different aspects in that philosophy. The value, the reality of it, whether or not it's ever touched Theseus's hands or not, and if that value makes it better or worse. If it's newer, does it function better than if it was the original? Like that kind of thing. It gets into a whole. It's a bit.
This is actually a great point here too.
7 years.
Yeah.
7 years.
7 years.
I was actually going to say that. I was actually going to say that with because we replace ourselves. Like I was going to be like, and then it goes into biology. Like you're not the same person you were in the past because all your cells have renewed, right?
Yeah.
That's why our personality changes over time. Our tastes, things we like.
Is that why our personalities change?
Well, it's one reason.
Is it?
I saw a really great exhibit. Called Star Wars Identities. Have you ever seen this exhibit? No. It is an exhibit about the science of personality, but all told through Star Wars, like so it's like the influences on your personality were like, what's like inherent in you, how you react to things, like that's inherent kind of genetically, and then also like the culture that you're brought up in and how that affects you, and then also like the things that happen to along the way. But like there was all these parts that go into making your personality, and some of it is like how you can take two people that have had the same cultural background and the same life experiences or very similar life experiences, but they will react to, something, an obstacle very differently, or like a setback very differently, because there is an innate part of your personality, but then there's also the part that comes from outside. And so, but they told this, and it was all like based on the science of and the research of it and everything, but they had like Star Wars artifacts with this and explained the whole idea about it based on like the characters of Star Wars, which is really cool. And so like you're learning about it, but then you're also standing and seeing like, you know, Luke's robes, which was just like the coolest thing. I still remember.
I mean, that
it.
is really cool. I've never seen it in the Star Wars bit,
Yeah.
but like I've been a part, like I've seen a bunch of well, it was the philosophy and psychology type seminars where they've discussed similar things.
Yeah, this was at like a science center, and it was a touring exhibit. So like it went to different places,
which is also in and of itself ethically questionable.
Yeah. But it was really cool. It was a really cool way to learn it, and it was a really interesting thing that I'd never thought about it. Like I thought, like you have your ideas, but I hadn't like thought about it before. And then also to have it presented in such a unique way, it stuck with me. Like I saw that exhibit years and years and years and years ago. That was good exhibit design. You know, I still remember the core message of that exhibit because it was well put together. So, you know, sometimes I think about that because I'm like a weird museum nerd, and I'm like, that was such a good exhibit.
You're someone that works with museums though, so when something hits you that hard, it helps. Like there was one exhibit that we saw at the Chicago Field Museum, and I don't remember what it was called, but it was awesome. It was one of the first times I'd ever walked in and like gotten to see some like paleontology like in action and everything. But one of the things was they recreated, was it Eliodont? No. Yeah, Eliodont, like the largest land mammal. Is that ever? What am I thinking of?
Paraceratherium?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, that was wrong. Yeah, so they recreated him as a creature.
Yeah.
And you could go up and touch him, and like the head was bowed, and so you could see, like, you could like touch his nose, see how big his nostril was, and like everything.
That's so cool.
And then right, like literally as you turn around, you got to see the smallest mammal ever, which is like smaller than like the nail of your, it was like a tiny itty bitty primate that was the size of like your nail, which was really, really cool. And it was actually like a type of lemur, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it was around the same time, oddly enough. But this was like the largest and the smallest mammals to ever exist, ever. And I'm just like at this moment, just like freaking out. I remember like looking up and being like, you existed, I could get crushed. Yeah. You exist, I could crush you. Like, I feel really bad. Like,
was that a traveling exhibit too?
That was a traveling exhibit. I don't know if it's anywhere else.
I wonder if it, because there was an exhibit years ago at the museum in Utah that had a life-size Paraceratherium as well. So I wonder if it's the same one, because I remember it. It was a good exhibit.
It was great. Like, so, and you could touch it, which was the coolest part. Like, you could get in and around, like walk under its legs, and like it was neat.
So sick.
I was obsessed with it. And then, like, of course, they had like a traveling sloth, like they had a giant sloth skeleton and a bunch of other stuff. But basic, it was just the common giant sloth, which is the Jeffersoni. So, but yeah, they had just some cool stuff, and I thought it was neat. And I think it was specifically a mammals.
It was called. Was it called Extreme Mammals? Really cool.
Say what?
Was it called Extreme Mammals?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Puila was in that exhibit, I think. I have my computer. I'm going to look it up. I'm pretty sure Puila was in that exhibit.
I saw it. Okay. I was a freshman in college when I saw this. So that was.
How many years?
Extreme Mammals exhibit from the AMNH. Yes. And I'm almost 100% sure that Puila was in there, because I remember my thesis advisor being like, oh yeah, they asked us to print out because the thing about Puila, okay, let me back up.
Go ahead.
Puila was the subject of my master's thesis, right?
Oh,
so it's
why is this so? This is important.
Yeah, it's so when I was talking about like the Arctic field work I did for my master's thesis, we were up there looking for the rest of Puila. Like they'd found it and they had described it, but they went back to the site and we found more of it. So when I started my thesis, it was about 60% complete, and by the time we were done our 2 seasons of field work, it was about 80% complete, the holotype. So what they
how do you spell it real quick?
Puijila.
That's exciting. This is an organism I'm not familiar with.
I was going to say, same thing. Hold on. Let me Google this shit.
Yeah, we're Googling it. Okay,
so Puila was found in the high Arctic of Canada, and it was
Otter.
it's not an otter. It is a stem. It's a stem pinniped, or at least that's what they first identified it as a stem pinniped. And I think further revisions have put it like as like just outside true pinnipeds, like it's like just like but it's an evolutionary step towards becoming seals, sea lions, and walruses. Yeah. So what was really cool about this project is that the bones of it were really well preserved, but they were broken, and there wasn't enough surface area on some of the bones to glue the two pieces back together like solidly. Like, so the person who was preparing it was like cleaned it, but they didn't want to glue it because there wasn't like, it was all medullary. It was all like, you know, open pore bone kind of thing. And they didn't want to, you know, so what they did instead is they scanned all the pieces. So that top one up there is a scan, is the 3D render of the scan. So they had a 3D scanner. They scanned all the pieces, and then somebody from the museum put them all together.
This is one of Richard Dawkins' favorites. It? I totally forgot about this dude. He wrote about it in one of his other books. I can't think of his name, but
So they put all the pieces back together in the computer, and then they 3D printed it. This is back when like 3D printing was like not really like a commonplace thing. Right now, there's a 3D printer in my basement. Okay, like my husband has one, but this was like they had to send it to like another city to get it printed, right? And they were able to put it together and reconstruct it in the computer, and then print it out and have this like completely accurate, you know, reconstruction. Even the like vertebrae that had been broken were back together, right? They were able to line up all the pieces, so that was really cool. So that was a really cool thing. So like when I did my master's thesis, I had all these like 3D images that I were able to use in my as my figures and stuff like that. So anyway, it was really awesome.
That's cool.
I'm telling you how old I am now. I'm old. But yeah, so that was a really so I remember them saying, oh yeah, Puila's gonna be part of this extreme mammals exhibit.
That's so cool.
They sent off the 3D print to this thing. So I don't know if it's still going or not, but anyway, that's my little guy. He's my little buddy. I love him. Yeah,
it's so cool. I love it.
I'm all getting red now because I'm like, oh, I love him so much. I still have a soft spot forever. He's so cute.
So when Milo might find this kind of interesting, I don't know if you guys will, but when I graduated, I did an undergrad thesis involving Clovis points and archaeological tools, specifically Clovis points, though. And in order to do comparison models, instead of like me taking actual artifacts down to Texas to look at them and back, I started suggesting that people scan them in and then send them to me so I can print them off in our school's printer. Apparently, no one had thought about that until I started asking. And I spent about a month talking to museum after museum after museum after museum if they could just take it down. It was called ABC Scan. That was the most simple one, and it's like you take your phone and you just rotate it around the thing. Like if you had a little cake spinner, it was the best thing ever. You just put the mold on there and just spin it, and the thing would make a little video and it would render it for you, which was great. I got a lot of thank yous from, like, I have an entire box, like a shoebox full of thank you notes from various museums and other colleges, because apparently this was not a thing, and now there's an entire underground network of it's not really underground, but there's an entire network of people sending like scans of pottery from like the Pueblo area to people up in New York who are sending stuff from Iroquois down there, and there's like all sorts of information you're getting, and you can compare it on a live scale, so you can print it off, get the design, get everything right, and have it just sit set by side as like side by side examples of things. And it's apparently become a very hot topic, and it's fun. And you work in museums now, so I assume like you guys every now and then ask for a 3D rendering of something in order to have it there. And it was weird that no one had considered this, even though because it was just when 3D printers started showing up in like colleges and museums, like that same year they started.
So the scanner that scanned Puila, I remember it. It was gigantic. Like it was like there was a whole room that was the 3D scanning department, and it was a big thing. And there was like the two guys that worked in there that scanned things and reconstructed things and made animations and whatever. It was like a big, like they had a whole room, a big machine. Like it was a big thing. And then like this year, I had a dentist scan my teeth to like make me a mouth guard, and he did it with a little wand, and
Yeah.
it was all color, and it was perfect within like a like he told
So
me how
cool.
perfect it was, and
I
I
know,
was
right?
like, do museums know about this? Like, can they? I bet you they would want to scan. Like, I bet you they would love to scan like fossil teeth. Like, you should
Oh my
tell.
gosh. No,
Like,
I
and there was even software that like it was happening in real time. Like, he
Yeah.
was doing my teeth, and I was looking, and there was a screen, and I was like, "That's my teeth! Oh my god!"
Yes,
And it was all
exactly,
color
exactly.
and everything.
So I guess, yeah, when I first started asking, like I was talking to all these curators, specifically in the anthropology departments of all these museums, and they were like, oh my God, we have students that want to touch these things and we can't let them. But we can totally scan them in and like let them have a copy of it. That's fine. And like I think I came across maybe like 2 museums that are like, no, this is our stuff. And I was like, I'm not asking for your stuff. I'm asking for a scan.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like 2 out of like the 30 that I talked to, and the next thing I know, I was just getting thank yous and like comments and like ideas of there's this one kid that was down at I want to say Rice University who like created an entire app discussing flakes through pottery when it comes to anthropology, and like he had all these 3D renderings, so like if you found a flake in the field, you could like scan through and like find something that's like identical to see what kind of strike it caused. It was really neat.
Cool.
And then we're still working, like that led me to work on a entire library that was chert related. So I can identify 75 different types of chert based off of the 75 different types of chert you can find in Iowa. So that lets you know what kind of chert or what kind of flint your particular artifact is made out of. And now I guess someone's trying to turn that into an app who's at the school now. So it's kind of led to a thing. I don't know. It's like, I thought it was a great domino effect that I'm just like, I get to be the first one. Click.
That's really cool.
Cool.
It's a weird thing to be proud about. Still really proud about it.
Milo, you're doing ornithology right now. Is this why I just saw your video today about bird tongues? Is this why you're talking about bird tongues?
Yep.
Yeah, that's 2 videos in a row about bird tongues because it was a couple lectures ago.
And they spiral. They're so cool. I haven't even seen this video, but I know so much about bird tongues.
Yeah, and I had no idea that there were. I mean, I knew a little bit about a few of them, but there's like we had like this is like a passed off reference in one of the lectures, like, and this bird tongue looks like this, and this one looks like this because they do this, and I was like, what?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again? You saying the bird tongue goes up and around the brain and then comes back out the mouth?
We didn't even talk about that, but yeah.
Oh, you haven't talked about that one yet? Oh, but those are the ones that like hop up and down the trees and like try to stick their thing for termites and shit.
Yeah. And it was funny, like I actually wrote down in my notes, like, this is TikTokable.
This is TikTokable. Yeah.
No, I did make a couple of videos about it, but
when I did ornithology, my favorite thing was like when I learned about feathers and how the blue color is actually from like the structure of the feather, like there's no pigment, it's like it's how it's reflecting the light. I was like, that is fantastic. It's so cool.
It's so much fun to take those and look at them under microscopes if you have, because they're so cool. Because if you switch out the light, it changes the color. Sorry, just listen out. Yeah, I mean, this past week, my boss went to a county fair.
Kitty.
The kitty county fair, and he was like, he apparently harassed some poor maple syrup farmer at this county fair by saying, so if I'm drinking the blood of trees, and after hearing this story about this, I was like, okay, if maple syrup is the blood of trees, then hear me out. Water is the blood of, or is like the life force and veins of rocks. And I've gotten actually quite a few comments regarding like how that's accurate and inaccurate. This is very much like, if ice is rock, then technically water is lava. Drink lava.
Yeah. Didn't Hank Green make a video about this where he's like, this makes us lava monsters, right? Because we're mostly water.
I need to tell you guys how I joined TikTok, okay? I joined TikTok because I was like, I was in the middle of the pandemic and I was like being a stay-at-home mom, and I was missing my paleontology and I was missing my museum and I was missing everything. And my friend sent me this like text and asked me a question, and I wrote her like a novel about early mammal evolution. And then she was like, no, she did. She was like, you're
Oh.
so good. You should like do a YouTube thing. And I was like, I don't have the time for YouTube. Like I am trying to look at, and she's like, well, I was like, maybe I could try this TikTok thing. So I downloaded TikTok, never went to the For You page even once, uploaded, like recorded a TikTok and just kind of like messed around and then uploaded it without ever having gone to the For You page, like ever.
Wow.
And
Congratulations.
and then, so I had no idea what I was doing. I just did like, I was like, I'm going to talk about pterosaurs not being dinosaurs and how they're actually,
Yeah.
and then I got like, I woke up in the morning, there was like 300 views on it. And I think it went up to something like 1,300 views. And I was like, people were asking me about lava, water. And I was like, what is this? Like on this first video,
So
they were
this
like,
was at that time. Okay,
yes,
so that was
a long time ago.
that was like February of 2021. That's when that came out.
That is literally exactly when it was.
So weird thing, geologic time scale is a thing in my brain, but also just timing in general. I can tend to pinpoint random moments.
Yeah.
That's a superpower.
It's
That
a
is a
weird power.
superpower.
It's weird, but it's there.
I wish I had that.
No, you don't.
So
No,
like
you don't, because then like when someone says like, yeah, I've only been on here for like so long, and I'm just like, no, I remember seeing you on at this date, and like they'll be like, well, I haven't been there, and like you get into arguments with people. It's really weird.
Well, and here's the thing about it. Because, okay, so I get this comment and I'm like, what are they talking about? Because I have no idea what's going on because I haven't even gone to the For You page. So I don't even know how TikTok works. I knew that TikTok was a thing and I'd seen some like TikTok videos and whatever. So, but I didn't know what was going on. So then, and I was taught that it wasn't a mineral because I had like a super, even in my geology, my first year geology professor was like a super like,
we were also taught it wasn't a mineral.
Yeah.
Unless it met certain conditions and unless the ice was made in a natural crystallized form. If it's in an ice tray and just stuck in a freezer, it is not technically a mineral.
Yeah. So but he was sort
thing.
of like, my old school professor was kind of like, no, it's not, like, and that was that. And but it was like a long time ago. And he was like kind of old. And like, so I had just kind of been like, okay. And then just went and learned about dinosaurs and, and other fossils and like, well, no. And then, so I was pretty sure it wasn't. So I was like, what are they talking about? And so I text some of my friends, because of course, all of my friends who graduated with me are all geologists because my paleontology concentration came through a geology department. Right. And then they were all mixed. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. And I was like, oh, I opened a big can of worms here.
It is a can of worms. It is a can of worms. And it is literally, it is, and it's not. It all depends on, this gets into philosophy. Ooh, Milo's gonna have some fun. Ice is both a mineral and not. It is both a rock and not. Technically, because when it's formed naturally, it has a crystalline formation, which allows it to be a mineral because minerals need some form of crystals in them, right? They need to have some form of natural crystallization.
Yeah. So
does that mean if it is in an ice tray put into a freezer but does not form crystals, does it mean that it is a rock and not a mineral?
Well, I guess there's also like, I guess some people are like, oh, but it's not solid at surface temperature and pressure, but like it is anyway.
Well,
like,
then let's talk about gallium for a second. Let's talk about gallium for a second, because that's a mineral and that's a metal and it's natural and it's a rock. And if you hold it in the palm of your hand, it melts. So technically, we're still at a point.
Everything has shades of gray, even minerals, I guess.
Here's one of the philosophical conclusions you could draw from this that becomes very relevant to the philosophy of science is that all boundaries are arbitrary. Literally all of them.
Oh, yes.
And when you start to push that, it becomes more and more controversial. But this is a position that I hold, that like literally every boundary, every category humans create is arbitrary. And so of course it's like, it's about what's the most useful for us. And there are going to be weird cases where it's like, this is a shade of gray.
There is a natural bias to what we learn based off of our own value for how much that information is worth.
Yeah.
And
it's actually
that's a statement that you have to pause and accept for a little bit. You have to think on that. So like, you may not know anything about the life of a snail until the life of a snail is relevant to something.
It's true.
Or, water and ice. Same thing.
And coming back to the ship of Theseus, like the conclusion that I draw from that thought experiment is that like there is not an answer to when it stops becoming the ship and when it is.
No.
And there's this really, I don't know how much you guys want to spend on this, but this is a very niche philosophical view that's called meteorological nihilism is the fancy term. But the idea is that there are no composite objects even. That like things themselves don't exist. There are only compilations of parts.
Yeah. Well, technically with atoms, that is the case. And even an atom is still made up of components.
Yeah. Like.
Yep. That's a thing.
And
I remember talking about this.
Yeah.
This thing gave me a headache. This one got really hard really fast. Because once you get down to quarks and once you get down to all that, it's like, we don't know. Exactly. We don't know.
Yeah. Here's a fun way I like to explain this to people because I am a meteorological nihilist actually.
Oh, cool.
If you take the way I explain it is this: imagine a piece of paper, and on this piece of paper you draw like 10 dots up in one corner, and the opposite corner you draw 3 dots. Whatever.
I don't want to imagine this. Can I do it? Is that okay?
Hell yeah, do it.
I'm gonna do it. I have a piece of paper. Hold on.
Oh, brilliant.
Piece of paper. 10 dots. Where am I putting them?
Put a bunch of dots up in the left-hand corner.
Okay.
And fewer dots in the bottom right-hand corner. So you have like 2 clumps, basically.
Okay.
The most natural thing that we would do to sort those dots into 2 things would be to circle the one in the top right, or top whatever the corner was, and say that, and to say that like all the dots in there and the space between them, that is one thing. Right. And then you can circle the other group at the bottom and say these groups of dots and the space between them is another thing.
Right. Yeah.
You could technically, instead of doing either of those things, you could draw an oval.
I'm gonna make these dots a little more easier.
Sure.
We'll use a marker.
Yeah.
Go on.
You don't need to like erase now, I guess. But the other way that you could do it is that you could draw like a long oval that encapsulates like a few of the dots from the top group, a lot of space in the middle, and then 1 or 2 of the dots from the bottom group, and draw that and call that an object. And yeah, here we go. You can see the visual here.
Ba-doo-boo!
Brilliant.
The yellow.
Right. So there are 2 ways of doing this. These are the 2 objects, or this is one object and the other ones are, I don't know, maybe 2 more objects or whatever. Yeah. And the meteorological nihilist would say both of those are equally correct because both of them are arbitrary and both of them are wrong.
That's fair.
And everything is this way.
Yeah.
Right. So like if I'm holding, this is a way to explain it that like seems really strange. If I'm holding this deck of cards, we could pretend that like we could say that the deck of cards is one thing, my hand is a second thing, and my forearm is a third thing. It's most natural.
Or you could say it's an arm with a hand holding a deck of cards.
Sure. And it's most natural for humans to be like the hand, the stuff that makes up the hand, the stuff that makes up the forearm is one thing, and the stuff that makes up the playing cards is a second thing. But it's just as accurate to say that the playing cards in the hand make up one thing and the forearm makes up a separate thing.
Right.
Because at the core, it's just whatever is the smallest units of matter that are arranged in these groups.
So the whole time you've been talking, I've been like, how does this apply to phylogenetics? Because everything in, there's always like, so again, like there's some things that are like stand the test of time, are pretty tested, tried and true, and they always come up the same, but there's always going to be like the phylogeny, the phylogenetic relationships of extinct animals are always going to be shifting as we get new information. And there's always people who want to like split more, the splitters, and people want to group more, the groupers, groupers versus splitters, and they argue over this should be one species or this should be 2 species or what have you. So I want to know, from having that philosophical point of view, how do you feel about like groupers versus like, how does that apply to, are you just kind of like, they're all, or like this is just fascinating to me because like it's all about grouping and it's all about relationships, but it is absolutely in a way where you draw the line arbitrary,
totally
smaller and smaller baskets, and it is something that is still being worked on. It's fluid, it's dynamic, right? So yes, please, please go ahead, do it.
The like broad way to answer this is that like, it's all arbitrary. Like even defining what a species is kind of impossible,
Oh,
right?
it's so yes.
There's literally like 1,000 different definitions for what a species is, because there's not one that works consistently. Because again, trying to define like this thing is one species and this is another is a human convention because it's useful, right? And this is why also like it's great to learn like the taxonomic ranking system to be like, this is the kingdom Animalia, and like that's a group, and then within that kingdom there's these groups and these groups. But again,
are
you gonna or let me whatever?
Yeah, go ahead, Milo. You got it. But there's nests, right? Like instead of like when you learn it in biology, you learn that hierarchy, and then when you get to like actual, you have to throw it all out because you're like, is this an infra order or a sub order? Like it doesn't make any sense. Like it's an idea, but in reality, it's nests.
Yes. Like all taxa, like the system of ranked classification, you learn it at first, and it's a good thing that you do because it's useful. And then after some while of understanding it, then you also have to accept it's bullshit.
Yes.
Because evolution is a gradual process.
Yes.
And this is why reconstructing like phylogenetic trees, if you reconstruct a phylogeny branches, taxonomy is to look at some random group of branches and circle it and say, this is a thing.
Yeah.
It's not really. It's useful to do that. And so when you come like applying this to the question of lumpers versus splitters, like again, there's not a right way to do it. So for me, the important thing is being consistent with like, what is the amount of variation in looking at the morphology, the shape of fossils that we ought to consider as one species.
Right. And then you have the issue though of things that are fragmentary and stuff, but are still useful. Like, you know, they're still useful in our understanding of the relationships of things because there's enough there that it shows us like something like, for instance, that this taxa was in this area and we want to put it into our understanding, but we might not have the same amount of material for each specimen that we have. I'm not saying you're wrong. You're absolutely right. Like like, that's one thing that I think if I remember correctly, the paper that came out in 2015 with that revived Brontosaurus, one thing they were trying to do is make a standardized way of measuring variation. But I don't know that it's necessarily been adopted.
Right. And the whole triple T-Rex thing, it brought up the same idea because the whole point, like the part that I will agree with in that paper.
No,
is that
Charles. Sorry.
What they're trying to do. What did Charles say? I'll get there. The point, what that paper was trying to do was to say, if we're being consistent and comparing the variety that there exists within what we call T-Rex to the variety that exists within all these other groups, then it makes more sense to split T-Rex into these three.
Right. But then the rebuttal paper did the opposite. They did all the extant and they found that it was within the range of normal.
Totally. But like, and also like even if like I'll grant that maybe there's a higher variation within T-Rex, like the three that they propose are not good.
No. And that's what the rebuttal paper was saying, that based on their own criteria, a bunch of specimens that should have been identifiable to species weren't anymore. And it's like, okay, then it's not a useful, then as you were saying, it's not a useful system.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a useful system.
The whole debate is about being consistent. And that's, I think, the most important thing. So
yes, I understand. And I understand, but I don't, when that first paper came out, it was a bit frustrating to me because it was so, it was very splashy and everybody was kind of talking about it, but nobody was talking about the nuance of it. And like, it was kind of oh, my phone is telling me I need to go to sleep soon, but I'm going to ignore it. But like, and so as a person who is, you know, who has done, like my whole thing is is a science communicator, as a museum educator, is to like take this research and like make it so that somebody can understand it who doesn't have that background. And when papers come, like when you have a paper like that comes out, that's kind of like I believe from what I was hearing in the background, like from my friends and stuff who were on like message boards and stuff, like part of the reason they put this paper out was just to get the idea out there. They wanted to be the first person to stamp their name on it, kind of thing. And they didn't, so that means that they're doing it to get their name on the idea, not necessarily to do it properly, which is a bit frustrating because then it gets retracted, but nobody sees that. Nobody sees the rebuttal. Nobody sees the retraction that the science in the original paper was not as solid as it should have been, that maybe they had a point, but they didn't go about it the right way. They just see the big T-Rex is split now, and it's this big deal. And that's not a good look. Like that's when you're saying, like, people are like, oh, but they said it was a thing, and you're
Don't
like,
put
no,
your
it's
name
not a
on
thing.
something just when it's half-assed, even if you want credit for it, because if it's shitty credit, that sticks with you.
Yeah, to me that's really, I mean, it does present an opportunity to talk about how science is not, like, science is a process, and this is all part of the process, that people come and peer review.
Or I guess that's down here. Charles has a comment.
Oh,
yeah. We can grab it. No, so we're literally just leading right into that. He jumped ahead of us, but he's like, is there a better solution so we're not starting out teaching something that we know is wrong and will be contradicted later?
Maybe.
The best way to do it in our sense is to teach what we do know and fill in the rest as we go, even if it does mean taking out stuff and putting new stuff in. Pluto was a planet for a while.
I think language is really important. Milo, I do want to hear your thoughts on this. I just want to say that I think language is really important when you do science communication. And I had a big discussion with another creator about this, like a long time ago. Like one of the first other paleontology neutrals I had, we had a conversation about this, and about how you have to be careful with the words you use, and there's ways to express the uncertainty of results in a way that it makes it clear that it's like, this is a cool finding, but like it might be this, or instead of kind of making it sound like
research needs to be done.
Facts. But so that's part of the problem, is sometimes things get portrayed as more certain than they are. But I don't know. Anyway, what do you think?
Oh no, I totally agree. Like, and there's this annoying misconception that science is a list of facts.
Yeah,
and it's just not true. Like, science is a process about getting closer to what we know
at the time that we know it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, like, more to Charles's question, like, if you want to talk specifically about, like, how do you teach taxonomy in the way that's like actually makes sense?
Oh yeah. I am literally relearning taxonomy right now, but it has nothing to do with animals. It is. Did you know? Okay, so geology doesn't do this, but soil science does. Soil science, we have our taxonomy as like the 3 rock types, and then here's a list of all the rock types, and these are like, we have the little triangles to explain what structure or like what rock type it actually is, right? Makes sense. But there's no taxonomic like down tree. There is one for soil, which blew my fucking mind.
So I don't know. Wait a second. I feel like there's a bit of a tree, because within igneous rocks, there's extrusive and intrusive igneous rocks and pyroclastic, and then it goes down from that, and then you have like, you have your mafic and felsic, and like, so it does split and split.
But we have the generic titles. We don't get down to like a species of rock, right? We don't get that specific.
Oh, I see.
You see? Yeah. But there is species. They're literally called a series of soils.
Right.
So it goes order, suborder, great group, subgroup, family, and series.
You use a lot of the same terminology too.
No, it blows my mind. Like the way that they've gone through things, and it's all numerically based, like percentages. So when we talk like about a mollusol is absolutely going to be 35% moisture capacity or more. You do not expect it to be under that. Like, that it's going to have over 50% cation retention capacity, which is a whole other thing we can get to some other time. But like, they specify everything so specifically. And I realized that that sentence was kind of just the blank sentence, but it was so specific when it came down to finding the taxonomic understanding of soils. And I was like, why does this not work with animals?
Because animals are not as animals are far more messy.
But with what we learn about soil is a living thing, even though it's not a living thing. Like, soil constantly changes. Soil is very much like a virus in this sort of aspect. It could be living, but it's also not. But then, like, why is that not part of our fucking like domain? So like, we have eukaryote, prokaryote. There's eukaryote. What's the domains?
Archaea, bacteria, and
eukaryote.
Bacteria, there it is. I was like, God damn it, what's the domains? But so you have those, right? Like, why can't, like, soils be multicellular but not a single system? Because there are systems, because the others are systems, but this one's... Anyway, this gets into a whole other philosophy. I'm at this point where I think that soils might be living creatures. But that can be said on another show. We can talk about it at another time because that is a whole other ball game.
I bet.
I'm pretty sure Dadpool is about to die.
Oh, I'm
good. Y'all keep going. I'm not gonna be able to contribute much.
I wanted to know what other courses they're taking because you only told
Oh my
us
God! Yeah.
So we got ornithology.
You only got two.
Yes, you got two. Let's hear the other ones.
So, I'm only taking 4, so we're halfway there. David Hume, ornithology. One is honors civil rights law.
Oh my goodness.
Very interesting. I've never taken anything about law, and this whole class is basically about Title VII, which is discrimination in the workplace. And that's, I mean, it gets like 3 gen eds and an honors credit, so that's why I took it. But it's going to be really interesting, so that's cool.
Yeah.
And then the 4th one is it's an honors writing class because I over last summer, I don't know if any of you saw the videos I posted about my trip to Argentina.
Oh yeah, I saw a few of those.
Yeah, I went with a group of other students from the U to go to Argentina for like 3 weeks for the main reason of observing southern right whales, and it was amazing.
Oh my God! I have the saddest story with southern right whales, but let's keep going.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to come back and hear that. But anyway, this is all part of is a minor in ecology and legacy. So we took a couple classes before the trip, spent this whole intensive thing during the summer, and then this class is the follow up. Do it with all the same people that went on the trip and synthesizing everything we learned, and then for a lot of people it's this is starting to work on writing your honors thesis,
right?
Which
are you doing an honors thesis, and when is that started now?
I mean, so I'm starting to think about it now because why not? I have this class basically dedicated to it.
Do it now.
Yeah. I mean, so
I started mine.
Yes. And better to start now than wait until senior year, which most people are doing.
I did. There was not enough time.
No, I know.
Yeah. That's
anyway, so I sort of bring up meteorological nihilism because I think that's what I'm going to write my thesis on.
If you want a peer reviewer that's not just in college, if you want someone that's gone through it, feel free to send me some stuff. I will read it. I will go through the things with you.
Well, good to know. Thank you.
I am not a help in that. I'm sorry.
I am. I've done so much editing with so many science students.
Yeah.
I was a research librarian, a student research librarian while I was in school. So So I'm people would bring me their papers, not necessarily for grammar, but to make sure that their arguments made sense in order to continue.
That's awesome.
I actually had a quick question, Milo, because I don't actually know this. What is your degree going to say when it is conferred upon you?
Oh,
sure.
Yeah.
So it will be an honors Bachelor of Science in Philosophy with
that's so cool.
With a minor in Earth Science and a minor in Ecology and Legacy.
Oh, okay. And so what cool Earth Science courses have you had a chance to take then? Because that's my little baby there. And I want to live vicariously through. So what are all the cool courses you can take?
The first Earth Science class that I took was a Zoom class, which is not ideal, but it was literally just called Science in the Cinema. So we every week we watched a movie and then learned the science by critiquing how bad the movie was. And it was great.
Oh my God.
Oh, that sounds like a blast.
Oh, I did a class
so much
just like that. We called it Science Through Film and Fiction. That was
the
same thing.
That was
we read
amazing.
books and we watched movies.
Did you watch The Core? Did you watch Okay, so
probably my hottest take, I'm an ex-Mormon vegan atheist that's a meteorological nihilist, and besides all that, my hottest take is that I think The Core is a good movie. This probably is.
Okay.
The science is.
Did you guys have to analyze Volcano?
No, we didn't watch Volcano. We watched Dante's Peak.
Okay, Dante's Peak is probably the most accurate. It is the most accurate volcano event cinematically made.
Yeah.
I like Volcano though. I thought that Volcano was just a good movie.
Yeah.
So the Core has a special place in my heart because one year for our Geology Society Christmas party, there was this bar that we always used to go to after class or whatever, and they got to know us. Actually, they didn't hear, they asked us once, what are you? And we said a Geology Society, but they heard Theology Society. So So yeah, it was funny. So we went there so often that the bar owner like made us t-shirts, but the first printing of them said theology always on the rocks instead of geology always on the rocks, and we had to like explain to him that it was not theology, it's geology. But anyway, I digress. This same bar, because they took us kind of under their wing and like loved us so much, they let us take over the bar for our Christmas party one year, and we just had the Core playing on every single television, and we had our beers, and we wore ugly Christmas sweaters, and it was probably one of the best Christmas parties I've ever been to in my life. It was delightful.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah. It was great. Anyway, but if you have one of those original shirts that says theology always on the rocks, that meant you were like cool. I didn't have one.
Amazing.
I have the original.
I had one of the ones that said geology always on the rocks, but I wasn't cool enough to be part of the group that had accidentally been mistaken for a theology society. And the bartender was definitely like, sorry, the bar owner was definitely like, yeah, I thought that was a little strange that you wanted always on the rocks.
What is theology on the rocks? I've not heard.
Exactly.
What does that mean?
Exactly. Anyway.
I mean, theology is a study of the
rocks.
character
It's
and
when
nature of
theologists
God.
literally
So
hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
I heard that dad joke. So that is a really so what other movies did you do in that class? Because that sounds really fun.
So many. We did the Core. We did I mean, my favorite one that I watched was Jurassic Park. We did, obviously. Closely followed by The Martian. I love The Martian. I think it's such a good movie.
Such a good movie, yeah.
We did The Martian too. That one like came out that year. We went to the theater to watch it and then made it.
That's cool.
Nice.
That was cool.
Did you what else?
We did Dante's Peak. We did San Andreas. Drives me freaking crazy.
I haven't seen that movie. Should I never see that movie?
It was so bad.
It's so bad. Here's my rant about
2012 was one of the ones we did.
Which one?
2012.
I haven't seen that actually.
It's as bad as San Andreas.
Okay, so
I'm not going to see it.
So San Andreas, you were saying there are two things that are.
So here's my. Nobody really likes the Core, but the reason I do is because even though the science is bad, it's bad because it has to be, because it's basically magic. Like you can't go to the center of the earth.
No,
like
everything about it is wrong.
Right. So every excuse that you have to make the movie work, like I'll grant it to you, because there's no way to make it work.
They set up the science of the movie
to
work, but then the machinery didn't follow it.
That's true too. Yeah, but anyway, like I think like the plot is entertaining. Like I think like in the Core, like I actually care about the characters, and like so there's all these reasons why I like the Core. San Andreas is about earthquakes. We know how earthquakes work. You could do it right, and repeatedly they get like the smallest stuff wrong that doesn't need to be wrong. And that's what drives me nuts. So for example, there's this scene. There's just like one pan out shot where you see like this giant crevice that this 9.7 magnitude earthquake made or whatever. And we know which direction the San Andreas fault slides. I don't. Right. So first of all, it like opens like this, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
But, so I don't remember if it's which direction the strike slip fault San Andreas is, but San Andreas, for those that don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna look it up real quick. But I'm pretty sure it's the side of California going down, but I'm not sure for sure. So I'm gonna double check.
I was under the impression California is moving up, and we are staying.
I don't remember.
So there's this like
fault. I'm just gonna look up the fault direction. See if I can.
Yeah, they'll have like.
It's okay. No, I had it opposite. Yeah, north. Oh no, I had it right. North America is moving down, and the edge of California is moving. Or did I have it down wrong? It doesn't.
No, you had it opposite. So
I had it opposite. Sorry.
Okay, so it's a left to right.
Plate is going up. California's moving up. We're moving down.
Okay, yeah. So it's a left to right strike slip, which means like for those that don't know, like whichever side you're standing on.
Near Vancouver, where it goes like this.
Right. Yeah, because that's a subduction zone. I think
there's a small subduction.
Yeah, there's a very small subduction zone. Yeah.
Anyway, but the San Andreas is a slidey one. So the two plates are sliding. They're not overlapping at all. And it moves left to right, which means whatever side you're standing on, the other one looks like it's moving left to right. But when they pan out, this shot in San Andreas has it backwards. It's moving right to left.
Yeah.
And it's like, I could fix this. You just do a 180 like on your phone. You just invert the image and it would be right. It's that easy. And
there's no monuments that have to be on one side or the other. It's literally just an open scene. It's an open scene. And it's like before he uses the plane to take off or whatever.
Right. Anyway, it's like something that
I know what you're talking about.
It's so easy to fix that, and they just don't. It drives me crazy. And also there's a tsunami, which is like it's a strike slip fault that doesn't cause tsunamis. If there's a subduction zone out in the ocean, then yes. And I made a TikTok about this a while ago too.
Yeah.
But anyway,
well,
it's
the thing is, the
stuff like
tsunami
that.
comes because there's displacement, right? And that displacement,
and that sends a wave out, and then it comes back.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if you're doing this,
tsunami is not actually a wave. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not really a wave.
It's huge.
It's moving.
But yeah.
Yeah, but like a tsunami is only going to happen if you have one plate that's going underneath the other, and it's like the tension, that friction that builds up this other top plate until it pops.
Yeah.
And that's what throws up the water, tsunami. If the plates are just moving side to side, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't. That's.
I mean,
it's not going to cause.
Honestly, when it comes to the plate,
if there's a fault though,
it's never the whole plate popping. It's like one itty bitty section going.
Yeah.
I mean,
if there's a fault, there's going to be.
If there's a fault, there might be like there you could cause a tsunami too, because again you're pulling it down, and so the water's going and then rebounding.
But like that's not going to happen on the Pacific Ocean though, because right now we're closing it, so it's
it's going to be the other way. It's going to be popping up. It's that you're right. It's popping up, but no, any kind of
I can talk about tectonics all day long. You're getting right into my area of specialty. Okay. You are sitting on it.
Okay. I'm gonna get off this low angle reverse fault right now before it goes and makes an orogeny on me.
I will have a whiteboard hanging up here next time so I can start writing and drawing shit and I'm explaining stuff. I hold on.
So I have one thing to say about while you were talking about how you like the core but you don't like San Andreas, and I think that's why I still like Jurassic Park, but I really don't like Jurassic World, because I feel like Jurassic Park tried to get it right in some ways.
Yeah.
And the choices they made were really conscious choices for the story. Whereas Jurassic World tends to just like be whatever crazy thing we can do. Let's make them as and there's so much more that we know now, but they don't incorporate or if they do, they kind of like throw it in, but then they like have to mess with it, and it bothers me.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be as like you can still make it entertaining without like, but then you have, because I guess I had so many kids come to me and be like, "Is Indominus Rex a real dinosaur?" Seriously, asking me this. Seriously.
I have to ask this because this was my biggest issue with the first Jurassic World. Was that the first episode, or the first, I guess, when we first get introduced to the new characters, right, for Jurassic World, the first scene of that first Jurassic World movie is a bird leg, like a finch or a blackbird or whatever that's sitting there, and like we see his little feet, and it looks like a dinosaur leg, and then it spans out, and it's just like a little songbird, right? And then they don't have feathers on any of the other dinosaurs the rest of the movie.
Yeah. Well, and they make the point that they do make that they try and like, explain it away as in like they're genetically modified, and like okay,
the first
fine,
one, not really.
I guess, but I don't know. It's again, it just seems like they kind of embellish them and make them scary and make them more like monsters, like to the point that it's not fun or believable anymore is where I have the issue with it. But I don't know how you feel about the Jurassic World franchise, but the first one I was okay. I was like, oh, it's a bit nostalgic. The second one, it took me forever to watch it. I only watched it like this year because I was like,
watch it, it's like
I only watched it once. I watched it by myself. And I was like, that was not a good movie. The movie itself was not good. And then I waited so long to watch the last one that just came out because everyone was just pooping all over it. And I was like, I want to see Dr. Sattler.
The best part of the movie is literally just the
original trio.
The original trio coming back.
That's why it's fun. Like it's still a fun movie to watch because there's that, and there's like callbacks all through. So it's like, even if like the plot is and it's like there's so many things about the accuracy, it's like it's still entertaining to watch because of those pieces. But like I don't see why those two things have to be mutually exclusive. Why can't you do that and have like accurate science? Like I don't know.
Yeah. Right. Well, the thing is, I'm not wanting perfect science.
No.
Like you don't need perfect science, but you need to make it
accuracy a little bit.
I mean, more believable, like rooted a little bit more in.
Yeah.
I think one of the big things, the reason why I don't like the Jurassic World so much as the others, is that the first three, Jurassic Park, Lost World, and then Jurassic Park 3, is they're like thrillers, and then those next three were action movies. Like they
Yeah.
switched the theme.
Yeah.
And it that different vibe just didn't hit the same way.
Yeah.
If you
I
watch
understand.
if you watch like the original Jurassic Park, they take their time. Like it says,
They take their
they
time.
take their
This-
time
They
revealing.
jump out.
Yeah.
They
That's a good
tease you
point.
a little
This
bit.
other one's just
And then
like
with Jurassic World, this just bam, it explodes out of the
Right.
trees. Like there's no
Yeah.
suspense, no build up.
You know
It's
what?
just-
You're
Yeah.
absolutely correct. I never thought of that before, but you're
it
absolutely
like
correct.
appeases. It's like
Even
they're
the-
trying to appease to a.
Well-
I need it now.
it's like
kind of
two
crowd.
different series, honestly. It's
Mhm.
really
Well, and even in the new one with the whole car chase, like the whole thing, the entire car chase, I was not enjoying it because
No.
it could have been a good action thing, but I was like, how is it that they can keep up with these motorcycles when 2 seconds ago she was out running them on foot? Like
Right.
it doesn't make any sense. There's no
Yeah.
like, and so I was just pulled out of it. I was like, and then it's like dinosaurs just eating things in the background, and it's like,
Yeah, and it's like the whole.
I'd
like
be
you
more
already said, like,
interested in
making them monsters.
Carboniferous world.
yeah. So it's making
Yeah.
it made them into made the dinosaurs into monsters. So the thing is, the original movie was as you were saying, it was a horror movie.
They were
And the
they were-
monsters were scary because they were believable as real
Right.
animals. That's what
Yeah.
made it
They
really
moved
scary.
slow.
And then they
creeped
made the-
around.
So that's the other
Exactly.
thing is when you go back into the making of Jurassic Park and you talk to the actors and you talk to the technicians, they didn't do CGI. There wasn't like this
Mhm.
mock-up. Like when they have that, is it Spinosaurus? I don't remember the actual name. They
Yeah,
call it
Spinosaurus.
Spinosaurus. But like where he grabs the plane, picks it up and shakes
Yeah.
it around.
Yeah.
The fucking actors were getting jostled in a plane with
Yeah.
something over it, shaking it around.
Mhm.
Like they were in the jaws. It's not like so I guess the first time now I can't think of his Malcolm, the
Yeah.
guy that plays Malcolm. The first time he walked on set to where he was gonna see a raptor, he sat down right next to her. He's like, "Oh, you're not very scary thing." And the robotics team turned the head and opened the mouth, and he like flew out of his chair.
That is
So-
incredible.
'Cause he
That is
thought it was
incredible.
stationary. So
Yeah.
he was like, but then
That's funny.
all these other ones, they're just like these green blobs with a bunch of little dots on them that
Right.
Right.
the actors are interacting with something that looks robotic, not the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Kind of sad. But anyway,
Yeah.
Interesting.
I
personal
just-
preference. I think the acting's better because of that. Because
Oh,
they were
yeah.
actually scared. Because half the time the director just put them in situations that scream.
Well,
Right.
Jurassic Park 3 was not my favorite. I don't know about
No,
you, but
Jurassic
I
Park
didn't love
was
it.
better, but
I didn't love it. I went actually as a first date with somebody to Jurassic Park 3,
Really?
and the gentleman I went on the date with, I was already kind of like, I was like, oh, let's go on a date, not a problem. And he left the movie and said, "That was the greatest movie I've ever seen." And in my head, I was like, I can't. I'm so sorry. I cannot.
Lost World was
No.
my least favorite of the first three. Lost World was
I
not-
agree, and that's a
But-
hot take. People love the Lost
Yeah,
World. It's
people
so
are
bad.
really, really happy about that one, but I don't like it. And then
No.
with the new three, the middle one, it was again the middle one. I didn't like
Yep.
it. It's
agree.
the whole bringing them back didn't
Mhm.
make sense to me
Mm.
at all. I just like why.
That's funny. Yeah, I know. I mean, my other hot take, movie wise, I actually like the first Jurassic World better than the Lost World and Jurassic Park 3.
Same thing.
You know
So,
what?
yeah,
I
out of the
have to
6,
rewatch it.
It goes to number one,
Yeah,
number 3 of the first, number 3 of the second, Lost World, then the middle one of the New World.
Right. I need to
I'm
rewatch.
in the I enjoyed the Lost World camp. I like
You
the
liked
second
Yeah.
it?
that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the general opinion. So that's me being.
I will have
weird.
to say I
Yeah.
haven't watched Lost World. Okay, so I watched that. I watched the third one the one time, and I never watched it again.
That's
Same with
fine.
Jurassic World. Same with all the new Jurassic
Mom will
Worlds.
be protective.
Yeah, like the one,
That's the whole story.
Lost World, I have seen it a couple times, and of course, the original Jurassic Park, I've seen lots and lots and lots.
Yeah.
So I before I make that ranking, I would go back and watch them again because maybe now things look better in retrospect. I don't know, or maybe they look worse. But I remember, thinking that the second Jurassic Park was basically a hot pile of garbage, but it was worth it to see T-Rex in the city at the end because that was a really cool
It was
thing
like
to
a
see it
Godzilla
again
reference,
behaving.
Okay, it
Yeah.
was like a Godzilla reference. They made it a Godzilla movie.
They did, but it was still it was the first time because it was the first time. So actually, as a kid, I had this book that was like dinosaurs in cities, and it was somebody had used computer graphics to make art that was like showing dinosaurs in
Like
human
size
cities. Not
comparison wise.
yeah, but not but they made it like art. So they didn't make it like, you know, that everything being stomped. They made it like, you know, standing next to this building and being reflected in the you know, like, so it was artistic, and I thought it was a really cool book, and I loved it because then I, as a kid, like I had this book as a kid, then I could look outside and imagine these creatures as living things and how big they would be and how they would be as living creatures. So for me, there was a little bit of a nostalgic thing when I saw that in the theaters. I was like, that was the first time I'd seen a dinosaur in a human setting as a living thing, and it was like a cool thing, and it was a cool idea, you know. And so that kind of like it played to that for me, that it was the first time something like that had been done. So that was worth it to see.
That's cool.
But I don't know. Yeah, I wish I could find that book. I have no idea where it went. Like in all the years, it's like been lost to time. It's
That's
like
funny.
maybe somewhere in my parents' house.
I used to have a book kind of like that too, and I'm trying to remember what happened to it. But I remember there was like a picture where it's like, and they made it look pretty realistic, where like there was some kind of little oviraptor that was like on a beach eating crabs. It was just like, what if dinosaurs just like were still around? Like,
and there would be like a field, and there'd be like
alligators. Alligators and crocodiles are my babies.
Or a
cassowary. I'm sorry, I stood face to face with an
Cassowaries
emu once, and it was terrifying. So dinosaurs exist. We know they do. And if anyone who's, you know, like I said, I was for sure, I thought it was going to get us. We were in Australia, and we had this rental car, and it was very old, and the bumper was very shiny. And we went on a hike, and we came back, and there was an emu looking at his reflection in the bumper of our rental car. Like, and we had to like, we were like, how do we get in our car without it like attacking us?
Story, trip to Australia. Went to go look at some stuff in a cave. Had to wade through some water to get through the cave, about 3 feet of it, right? Take all our packs off, pick it up. So like, because we went down, descended, have to get across this creek type thing. Low light, not allowed to shine flashlights, got endangered bats and shit, right? Okay. So we get to the other side, and they're like, okay, you can turn on your red light. You can't really turn on anything else. And try not to look back towards the water. And we were like, I thought it was because of bats, like, don't look up. And they're like, no, just don't look at the water. I looked at the water. When I tell you there were thousands of red eyes staring back at me.
Oh my God.
And then I was like, logic, come on, Nat, use logic. What is it? Snakes? We wouldn't see this many eyes. They're not that big. Like, those snakes would have to be like anaconda size. Like, that's not a thing. That can't be a thing. And I was like, caimans? And like, those eyes are still too big for those. Like, and those are in South America. I can't really, that's not a thing. So next best thing, crocodiles. Yes. It was a breeding ground. We just waded through an entire underwater creek bed. It was,
oh man.
I fell in love with crocodiles after that. I liked them before, fell in love with them after, because I'm like, they're like stingrays. You don't bother them, they won't bother you.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know, a few years prior to that, D. Irwin got killed. So, you know, it's like, you know, I don't know, maybe my logic's not sound.
Well, that was such a kind of a freak accident, really. But anyway, so when you're done your degree, what are you gonna like? Are you thinking of pursuing graduate studies? Are you thinking of
Yeah, but in what? I don't know.
Well, that's the fun of it.
I mean, the problem is that like I would be really happy doing grad work in philosophy or in paleontology, like, and those,
right?
You know, it kind of goes either way. I've set myself well, like, to give myself options, I think, because having philosophy and then 2 minors in the sciences like gives me options. And of course, philosophy is useful in whatever you go into, because showing that you have communication skills, that you can think critically, and write clearly, like, these are skills that are universally applicable. So I've given myself options, but it also means that like I've just kicked the can down the road. I'm gonna have to figure it out at some point. Right. I was talking to a grad student in philosophy at the U the other day, and he like about this, and like he made the good point that philosophy, going into doing grad work in philosophy, is maybe, I'm not sure what the word is, but it's like it gives you more options, because philosophy is just so broad. Like, I can kind of do whatever I want to. And if I want to do something in the philosophy of biology or the really niche and fairly new field of philosophy of paleontology that like I have the freedom to do that. Whereas
Right.
going into the sciences is a little bit more structured, not quite so much freedom there. So
Yeah, I mean, but then like the freedom of that is like, you know, when you study paleontology, you can study like any living thing, right? There's so many different like creatures to get excited about and
Everyone
projects and
always-
like every kind of the thing about paleontology is that
It's
you
not
can
just
do
dinosaurs, people.
you can do
Yeah, mostly
biology type paleontology, you know, where you're looking, or you can do geology type paleontology where you're doing like ecosystem reconstructions and
Which
you're
is
doing like,
lovely.
you know, microfossil assemblages and you know, taphonomy and that's what like there's two different sciences to approach. I'm not trying to sell you on this at all, by the way.
No,
There's
please,
like
I
I'm
will sell you
gathering
on,
data.
I will
Yeah.
sell you on
Yeah.
stuff.
yeah,
I will
but
sell
no,
you on all
seriously,
of the things.
so the
All of
project types, like you can do like there are paleontologists that do like biomechanics and they're doing physics, they're doing the physics of movement. There's paleontologists that do, you know, phylogenetic type stuff. And then the other thing about it is that a lot of paleontologists will do a lot of different types of projects. Like they don't only stick, like sometimes they specialize in one type of animal, but not for sure. Like sometimes, yeah, they work on mostly this kind of animal, but if they find a fossil in their study area that's something different, they might end up studying that as well. So then you get like this variety of animals, this variety of techniques, you're learning new, you know, methods and stuff. For some people, that's not great. For some people, that's overwhelming. But for other people, that's exciting, you know.
Right.
But like also finding fossils is so much fun. But of course, then you have but in any, you know, graduate studies, you know, finding the employment afterwards can be challenging, and you have to be willing to move where the jobs are, and it's a long slog. But you know, most people who are really passionate about it, they get there eventually. But yeah, like all my friends have some kind of employment at the moment. You know, the ones that got PhDs are doing postdocs or doing whatever, right? So most of them have found something, even if it's like teaching or whatever. But yeah, if that's something that matters. Oh, don't step on my laptop. That's my data there. Don't do that.
That's my important thing.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's all good to think about. So thank you. And there's also the question of like, how do I fit in? Also the fact that no matter what I do, I want to be communicating about it. Like that science communication, or, I mean, obviously it's not like I'm doing a lot on TikTok talking about like the reasons that I think ontological arguments for the existence of God don't work, but like maybe I'll get there eventually. I don't know.
There are masters in science communication. There is a science of science communication as well, which is again like an intersection between.
That is the thing.
There are a few universities that offer it. So I don't have a formal degree in that, but I know people who did take those, which is really cool. So that's another thing. I'm sorry to bring it all up, but like I just remember, you know, it's a really cool time because you have all these options available and it's fun to think about. So
it is definitely fun.
I'm living vicariously through you. Sorry.
No, I think it's great. I love that we've gotten to this topic because it's a really nice topic to kind of close on. And then we can pick it up again. Let's be honest, we're all going to meet up again and we're going to keep talking.
I hope so.
I hope so.
Well, actually, maybe try and bring him in too at some point.
Good.
But,
sorry, who? Bring who?
Renegade science teacher.
Oh, Forrest. Sorry, it cut out when you were talking, so I didn't hear.
That's because I interrupted
bring
you.
him in too and talk about evolutionary theory and philosophy behind that too.
And he also like I've seen he's been on like the Atheist Experience quite frequently. So he would, I'm sure, have plenty to contribute. I'd love to talk to him.
Matt likes him, which is awesome because we need to get him to come to the atheist convention again.
Great.
But anyway,
well, maybe on this topic in closing, this is a great way for me to lead into plugging my YouTube channel. Actually, I forgot to mention that.
Plug.
And, like, thinking about the future, like if there's a way that I can do science communication and stuff like this as at least a part-time job, God, I would love to do that so much. And TikTok's just the worst for that. They don't pay you crap. And so I just hit 1,000 on YouTube the other day, and like if I can get, which was so exciting, and if I can get enough of an audience over there to make money off of YouTube or start a Patreon or something, I mean, it'd be a dream come true. So the YouTube channel is Majestic Masiakasurus. I started that in high school.
Link to it below.
Sick, thank you. So if you're interested in like debunking bad science kinds of things,
Oh,
like
I
if you
love
want
it.
to see me
I love
debunk
hearing
flat
that.
Earth shit, or like the dinosaur hoax, people that think that dinosaurs didn't exist, I have plenty of old videos about that. I have so many more things planned for.
Nice.
But yeah, there's that.
That is
Since-
awesome.
All right.
Since last week, I have also started a YouTube, but I don't have any videos yet.
I
Because
also
I'm-
have one that is not public yet because I'm working on the videos, but it's
Yeah.
Will and Septic Scientist. We'll be working on that soon.
Very nice.
Mine's
So-
just Joannosaurus again, and I have a profile picture and a channel description, but nothing yet. So if anybody, I have one follower. I don't know who.
I don't know this person, but they're following me.
They're my first follower, and I'm so grateful to them for
Well, I'll hop
signing
on
up
and make
for.
it do for you.
Ah, that's delightful, and I will make
Great.
sure to follow you
Yeah.
back.
Yeah,
All
I'll
right.
follow when you have a video.
Oh,
There
I
we
see
go.
it. I see how it is.
You gotta earn it.
Yeah, you gotta
Gotta
earn
earn
it.
it.
You gotta earn my love.
All right, guys. Well, thank you all for joining me tonight. Sorry, my energy's been very low. Very,
Okay.
very tired.
It's been great.
Cannot wait to go to bed. But still enjoyed myself. Still glad y'all came on, and would love to see y'all again sometime in the future.
For sure. Me too. Been a pleasure to be
Yeah.
here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm so excited to talk to you again soon. But for now, good night.
Night, everybody, and thanks for
Good night.
watching. Yeah, y'all have a
Yeah.
good night now.
Appreciate it.
Good night.